right, so here we're just having a quick look at our finished painting. We have beautiful blue sky, 2/3 of our painting, blue sky. And then we had our distant mountains, hills, distant lighthouse with white paper, some gorgeous blue and green ocean, some sand for the beach area, and then we have some gorgeous, beautiful reds and warm colors for the foreground here with some trees and some pine trees. Interesting colors in this, and we tried to use all the colors of our palette, and we did. Hope everyone has a really fun time with this painting. We're going to do it in just a few minutes. Just again, I always want to say up front here, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We make videos just like this every week, and we have a great time painting together. We go over everything from drawing the painting, laying everything out correctly, perspective, color selections, all the way through to the techniques how to paint and how to finish the painting without going overboard and doing too many details. So this is my style of teaching, where I try to cover all the steps you need, the whole enchilada, A to Z. And I hope everyone's going to have a great time on my channel learning. And of course, I have plenty of videos in my archives on my YouTube channel. You can always go back and look through them. I know many of you do. So that's fantastic as well. And all right, we'll get right into the painting, and you can do your screen capture of this, or you take a picture of this, or you can leave this on pause on a laptop or a iPhone or a phone or a device, an iPad or tablet device. You can leave it on pause, this part. This way you'll see the finished painting as you're working. Best way to work, I think, with watercolors in the beginning especially, is trying to work from actual watercolor paintings. That's really the sort of the best way to kind of get the feel for what kind of look you want to develop with your style. All right, we'll get right into it in just a second. Hi everyone, welcome. This is Chris, and we're here in the studio, and we just saw the finished painting, and I'm glad you're here and coming by. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna create a wonderfully beautiful painting with lots of color. We're gonna kind of focus in on color right now, and sometimes I think it's fun to try different avenues of design and ways of painting, techniques with your watercolors. It sort of just helps round out your base of knowledge when you're working in watercolors, because watercolors are it's a medium where it's a fast medium. You'll hear artists say that in books or online on YouTube videos. When you're out there learning about watercolors, it is a fast medium. So it's sometimes really helpful to kind of slow things down a little bit. So before we go into our painting, I almost just want to go in and start putting in some beautiful colors we have. Look at all these beautiful colors we have. But I thought to myself, let me slow down my process and just create like a template before I go in and start painting. This way I have already an idea of what I want to do, but I think with the colors, the way I'm going to put the colors into the painting, I'll be much better if I sort of take a step back and slow down and write out some of my ideas. So let's do that. So what I do is I'm looking at the painting and I'm saying, okay, this in my mind is what I'm thinking of. Okay, I have my paper, and I'm thinking of like making a really big sky, and maybe a third of the paper I want to make like land. I want to make it like an ocean, like a shoreline, and then maybe just like a lot of fields here, like maybe some gold and red fields, and it's maybe going to be sort of a fun painting with colors. I'm not going to stick too much to real super realistic design to this color design. So I'm just thinking of like really cool gold colors, reds, really warm colors here in the lower third, and then across here the ocean and the sky. So for my sky, I'm thinking, blue, maybe like a mixture. I want to get a lot of different colors. I want to try to really blend and use a lot of the colors in my palette, mostly all the colors in my palette if I can. Actually, we'll try to make that a goal, that we're going to use all these colors here in this palette, in this painting. So we're going to make a lot of interesting mixes. So we have blue in the sky for the most part, and some purple. So blue purplish color with some greens. Blue, purple, greens for the sky. And then for the bottom, we're going to use like reds, orange, yellow, some brown, green. Just so I have an idea of how I want to do this. And this is going to be a really fresh, beautiful looking painting. And again, it's not going to be so much about maybe so much the drawing, but just the real beautiful colors we can incorporate into our painting from our palette here and try to use most of our colors. Let's try that. Let's see if we can get all these colors here involved in this painting. And so I'm going to take a quick break so I can just invigorate my concentration level, and we'll come right back. Okay, we're back and we're here and we're going to get started. We're excited. We did a little bit of prep work here. We did our colors. We said we're going to use our entire palette for our colors. We'll try to incorporate all our colors into this painting. But we did kind of give ourselves a little bit of pre-planning, so we're going to do that. We have this list here we made, and like a rough sketch of what we want to do. I'll set this across for me. I'll tape that up across for me at my art table. And then I'm going to use some different brushes. So I have a needlepoint brush and a flat brush, synthetic, natural hair needlepoint brush, synthetic flat brush, natural hair Kolinsky Sable round brush that I always use constantly. I'm always using the round brush, as you know, if you watch my channel. I appreciate that. And my friends that watch all the time, you know I have these brushes all the time, the round brushes. And I'm using another smaller flat brush here, a synthetic flat brush, smaller one like a 3/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch. So that's about the brushes we'll use, and that'll work out fine for us here. And the only other thing I would mention is I used, for this painting, I normally use one water bucket, but for this one I'll use 2 water buckets. One, I'll rinse off my brush when I have too much paint on them and get the majority of the paint off the brush on the, so I would call this like my my first bucket I'll go into to rinse off all the paint off the brush, and then I'll keep a cleaner, more fresh, clean water in the second bucket. And that I'll use to do the washes with when I'm working on the paper. So sometimes it's nice to have 2 buckets of water, so you can kind of use one to get the majority of the paint off on the off the brush, and then the other ones we use to paint. So we'll start out. I think the best thing we can do here is we'll start out. I'm going to really carefully just go around the lighthouse. As well as the shoreline. And this really works out good. This way the water doesn't run down over the lighthouse. We're going to keep that a white, somewhat of a white color. This way it'll kind of be, it won't sort of get blended into the rest of the sky and everything. So we did that with the needlepoint brush. We can get that really fine lines around the lighthouse with the water just to dampen the paper. This is Arch's satin paper. And then I'm going to also go across the horizon line here, so that when the water runs down the page, it's not going to flow over the mountains. It's going to stay. We can always blend in the, does that make sense? We can always blend in the sky into the mountains if we want, but this way we have an option of letting it, the flow of the sky color, stop at the mountaintop here and the lighthouse, so that we can have that option of, because once it starts running down over the rest of the painting, and it could be an interesting effect too. So we'll do that, and then we'll take some fresh clean water with our wider flat brush, and we'll just get a dampness here to the paper. So just one quick bit of water, like one simple wash, not too much water, just dampen the paper. It might be hard to see how much I'm putting on, but I'm not flooding the paper with water here. I'm just going with a really light, just to dampen the paper is all I'm doing, so that when I go to put the paint on, it's going to just give us that really watery look. That looks good. Now we're going to mix up some sky color, and I think what I'll do here is we'll have some fun. Let's really work in some interesting blues here. So let's go with cobalt blue, French ultramarine, cerulean blue, a little bit of viridian green, cerulean blue. We're going to do a little bit of purple. We'll use some purple in the sky, maybe even a little bit of burnt sienna. Let's see if we can get a really nice wash here. And I think we're going to want to make this. So to make a good rich dark wash, lots of paint. We have to use lots of paint on this. French ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, purple. Let's mix some purple in there. And there's some more. That should be good. So we used already a lot of paint. Maybe we did a little bit of viridian green in there too. Maybe a little bit of sap green. So we're going to try to use all the colors of the palette. Now I take my brush, my large flat brush, and I just load it full of paint, and we go right across. Now this is where we work fast to get our sky color in. Darker at the top maybe. Maybe we'll add a little bit of burnt umber. So we're going to go a little darker at the top. And then we're going to go right down the page here. And we're going to want to just, you have time. This is a great paper. Arches paper is a phenomenal paper. I'm going to rinse my brush off a little more. Cobalt blue. And I'm making it lighter here at the base of the sky. And if you have a little bit of, if you find you have any funny marks, and we'll just, if you have a couple funny marks, just try to scrub them out as you go with your brush quickly. And I think that's good. Now, with watercolor, you have some time to work. No need to panic, but it is a fast medium, especially when you're working with lots of water like this. The paper's buckling. I'm going to use my round brush, and I'm just going to very carefully just blend in the blue around the lighthouse. And what I am going to do is I'm going to take a tissue, dry off my brush with the tissue so the brush is dry, and then pick up the paint. Pick up the water with the brush, dry it off. That's a good way to pick up the water. A little bit of flowing and a little bit of the paint running down, and that's fine. I'm going to take some French ultramarine blue, and I'm going to actually darken this area. Maybe some purple. So we'll make an interesting purplish blue here. This we have to do kind of quickly. We can't wait too long, but we're going to just darken this area around the lighthouse just to make that area look a little more interesting. And I'm just trying to be I'm trying to, kind of make sure I want to keep the details here. And that worked out well, that we wet the edge first along the water line here as well as the mountains. Okay, now I'm going to go with more Viridian, sap green Viridian, mixed with a little bit of that blue. And I'm going to do some of the water here. I'll leave some light paper there. And some blue. And I think I'll go with we'll make some dark here, some French ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, sap green, and let's give that right there then maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. And this is where we're just let's mix our colors in here. Let's have a fun time with this. And again, we're going to do, for that distant hill, I would say let's go with raw umber. We could use some of that blue, raw umber, burnt sienna. We'll use some alizarin crimson, a little bit of orange, burnt umber, a little bit of cerulean blue. So we're using lots of different colors there. We can go back in, get some more greens. And notice that I did try to leave, and I'm trying to just add charging in some paint here and there, just to give it some feel of things changing a little bit. And as I go this way, closer to the coast area, very little. So if you can get those small details in our minds, let's think of just trying to a lot of variation, lots of variation in colors, lots of variation in shapes, and as we create this the hills here, and I think that is looking good. Okay, so this is the part. let's take a break here. This is where I think it will be perfect to take a break here, because this way we can come in and do those smaller mountains along this base of this mountain here and along the coastline here. We can get some color in there. We might leave some white paper, but we'll try to get some more colors and tonal value variations along the base of this mountain here. That's going to give us some nice distance feel. And then we'll start working in our colors here in the foreground. And I think we'll be all set. So this is a perfect time, though, to sort of we'll take a break. We'll take a break, and that could be some ocean waves here a little bit in the some sand. So sometimes I'll have an idea when I'm just standing back looking at the painting. I encourage everyone to do that. Taking breaks is great. So now I'm taking a break thinking, okay, I'm not going to paint anymore. And then as I'm looking at this, I'm going, oh, if I add a little bit of blue and this gold sand color, some raw sienna and yellow ochre, that kind of gives us that feeling of sand. And we can also go in and make a little bit of a darker mix. That's some raw umber, maybe some burnt umber, and we can just tap in a little bit of sand like that. So a little bit of that sand feel, and we can go over that too. If you find you splash on some paint and it doesn't look 100% great, that's no problem. You can add a little bit of touch of water to it and blend it in like that. All right, let me not break my promise of taking a break here. Let's take that break. We'll come back after this dries, the ocean water, the sand, and the mountain here, and then and the sky too as well, and we'll continue. All right, so we're back from a little bit of a break, probably about 10 minutes, and the paper dried quite a bit, so we're in really great shape now. Everything's pretty much dry. Very much dry. The paper's still buckled a little bit because there is, quite a bit of moisture. We added that light wash in the beginning. We remember we added that very light, just dampening the paper of the upper sky. And then when we added our wash of blue across there, that's quite a bit of water. So that area is going to definitely have still a lot of moisture in it, but it's still pretty much dry to the touch. It's just damp, but very, very, lightly damp. The shoreline here, the water and the sand here, that's all dry. And you can see we used a lot of colors. We mixed a lot of different colors. I think that really adds to the beauty of this painting here. And I think that we have most of this completed now. So we're really in great shape. We're just going to finish the foreground here. And it's a good painting for like a person that's maybe like a beginner, or you're just starting out in watercolors, maybe a couple years or so, and you're still working out your techniques and getting the feel for the paper, the water, all the different things that watercolor. Watercolor takes a long time to learn. It takes years to get familiar with it. The more time you put in, obviously you'll learn things quicker, but there is a learning curve with it because there's a lot of things going on at one time. Water, paper, paint, drying times, washes. A lot of stuff. So the more you paint and have fun, do little sketches on paper and then do some finished paintings, the more you put in, the more you get out, no question. So I do a lot of, I'm always watching new videos on YouTube. I watch other videos I have in my video library. And I look at books all the time. I just go through books and look at other paintings. I'm not a big reader, but I like looking at the pictures of the paintings in other books, and I love watching videos. That's what I do mostly, would be watching videos and things on YouTube. And again, I have a library of paint videos, DVDs. And so let's get started back in here. Let's see now. We have, again, just this area here. We'll do maybe a little more details maybe in the painting, but in this upper area here of the ocean. But this looks pretty good. Maybe we'll do the hills here. And since we, now this is a smaller painting. This is like an 8 by, or like a 6, yeah, like a 6 by 8, 6 by 9. So it's not really a super large painting. And I'll use my round brush here. And what I'll do is I'll try to get a light wash of purple. And actually, let me use a sand color. We'll use some sand, yellow ochre, burnt umber, a little bit of orange, cadmium orange. And I think if we use a little bit of that over here, just a little bit of that color along this bit of the coastline here. And I left some white paper too. That'll be good. And then we can also, if we want, we can take our needlepoint brush and we can charge in a little bit of color, maybe a little bit of cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow. So let's use all our colors. I think we've used pretty much everything so far. We'll use some cadmium red as well. We're going to incorporate that in our foreground. So I rinse off my brush in the water bucket. I dry off a little bit on the tissue. And I just wanted to get a little bit of yellow, cadmium lemon yellow and cadmium yellow, and just add a little bit in there, here and there, just to give it some more color. Maybe a little bit of the red. We'll put a little bit of the cadmium red. And again, we wanted to make this interesting, lots of colors. Again, this is more of a fun painting where we're going to use lots of colors. We're not worried about, is there really red hills in the distance? We're just having fun. We're having fun with our painting. We can make it we can put any amount of colors we want, any variety. We could have made the sky, you pick a color. You can make the sky red, yellow, blue, green, purple, any color, yellow. It's up to you. You can create and design your paintings any way you like. And that's what's the fun about art. You can do your own thing. And okay. Let's start working in some of those foreground colors. So I'm going to mix up, I'm going to use that cadmium lemon yellow, cadmium yellow, raw sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium red, cadmium orange. Let's use some of that burnt sienna, burnt umber. We are going to add some of that sky color. Let's get some of that in there. Blue, cerulean blue. So now we're going to use all the colors, cobalt blue, purple. We're going to mix all those blues over here. Some of the green, viridian, a little bit of the ivory black we'll put in there. And I think we used everything, a little bit of Prussian blue. Yeah, I think we used everything. This is rose madder. Put a little bit of rose madder there. And we're going to make this the real exciting part. That looks awesome. Look at those colors. Let's get some real powerful red there, some cadmium red. And again, this is your painting. You create it the way you want it. Sap green, olive green. chromium of oxide. I'm going to get some of that yellow ochre, splash that in there. And if some splashes go, you can always lift up a spot or two if you need to, if you don't like the way it looks, or you could leave the spots in there. And now we're going to use a, this is I think ox hair or goat hair brush, just to give us a little texture here. Let's do that. The thing with this is we need to have a paper towel just to make sure that we so I'm just lifting up, doing a little, so we have that feeling of there's some grass and things there. Perfect. So now we have that feeling of the grass and the weeds and these beautiful colors. We can always add in more color. Some more reds in here. Orange. And you can see I'm having fun. This is just getting some paint on the paper. Then we can do a little blotting with our tissue. Then we can just blot up a little bit along the tape so that we don't get any back runs. So if we just go along, pick up any excess water along the bottom here. I just have a couple. And already that looks more interesting. Then we can go with some burnt umber and French ultramarine blue, sap green. Make a green looking color for our some. And now this here you can actually, just a few here and there. We don't want to do too many. And then we could even do a pine tree. Let's put a pine tree in. A pine tree or two, and then we just and we'll do another one here next to it, just adds a little more interest to the painting. It kind of felt a little bit like it needs a little extra subject matter here, so we just add a few pine trees here. That looks sort of interesting. Maybe we can do burnt umber and cerulean blue. Maybe we can do, let's see here. maybe there. And maybe here we'll just do a... We'll do an interesting tree, just like a nice... Just a couple branches. And I'm going to keep going a little bit with these some tree shapes here, just to make things a little more interesting. It kind of feels that the painting looks better with some more subject matter in the foreground here. So I'll just do a little... And then we can darken up that in a few spots here. Makes it... And then in the very foreground, we can use another brush I like to use is a hake brush. And what we do is we just take it, dampen it, and then splay out the hairs like that. Pick up some of our mixture of colors here, just the darks, that's fine. And we'll see how that looks. We'll just sort of see if we can get a couple interesting grass feel. Some weeds and grass in the foreground here. Just a few, not too many, just enough to give it the... Excellent, all right. Perfect. I can see one more thing we can do, maybe just to... Actually, this is good. Again, I don't want to overwork here. Let's call this a day. Perfect. We can always come back the next day if we think we might want to add something to it, but it looks pretty good. Let's peel off the tape and see how it looks with the nice crisp white border. And that looks really good. It has a good feel of lots of interesting colors, which is really what we said we wanted to do. And we'll zoom in just a little bit here. We wanted to use all the colors of our palette, and we did. And we have a feeling of steps and depth into the painting. So we have our foreground right here in the closest area to us with all the little trees. And as we go further into the picture, there's some more, a little bit of a middle distance pine trees. Then in the farther distance, the mountains, the shoreline, the lighthouse, the ocean, some of the sand along there. Gorgeous blue sky. Have fun with this, everyone. Enjoy. Use as many colors as you want. You can make it only 3 colors if you want. It's up to you. Have fun. And we'll see you on the next video.